Jake Morrison wiped the grease from his hands onto his already stained work pants as the sun began its descent behind the rolling hills of his small farm. At 42, his life had settled into a comfortable, predictable rhythm. He ran a modest auto repair shop on his property, fixing trucks and tractors for the local farming community. His days were filled with the honest work of turned wrenches and replaced parts, his evenings spent tending to his small herd of cattle and chickens. It wasn't glamorous, but it was his, earned through years of hard work after leaving the Marine Corps. The farm had been his grandfather's, and Jake had poured his heart into maintaining it, even as the surrounding area slowly modernized and changed around him. That particular evening in late September, Jake was driving his old pickup truck back from town after picking up supplies. The two-lane highway that cut through the rural countryside was mostly empty at this hour, just the way he liked it. The radio played classic country music, and Jake hummed along, thinking about the tractor repair waiting for him tomorrow morning. The sky was painted in brilliant shades of orange and pink, and for a moment, everything felt peaceful and right with the world. Then he saw the smoke. At first, it was just a dark smudge against the colorful sky, but as he rounded the bend, his heart lurched. A black SUV had gone off the road, crashed through the guardrail, and was now partially down an embankment, flames already licking up from the engine compartment. Without thinking, Jake slammed on his brakes and pulled onto the shoulder. His military training kicked in instantly, his mind shifting into crisis mode as adrenaline flooded his system. He grabbed the fire extinguisher he always kept behind his seat and ran toward the wreckage. The heat hit him like a physical wall as he approached, and he could hear the dangerous crackling of flames consuming metal and plastic. That's when he heard them. Small voices, crying and screaming from inside the vehicle. "Help! Please help us!" The desperate plea sent ice through his veins. Children! There were children trapped inside that burning car. Jake didn't hesitate. He reached the driver's side door and looked inside. A young woman, probably in her late 20s, was slumped over the steering wheel, unconscious, blood trickling from a wound on her forehead. But it was the back seat that made his heart stop. Two little girls, identical twins who couldn't have been more than 4 years old, were strapped into their car seats, their faces streaked with tears, their small hands pressed against the windows. The smoke was getting thicker, filling the interior of the vehicle, and the flames were spreading fast. Jake knew he had maybe 2 minutes before this entire car became an inferno. He tried the driver's door, but it was jammed from the impact. The front of the SUV was crumpled, and the door wouldn't budge no matter how hard he pulled. The flames were getting closer, and he could feel the intense heat singeing the hair on his arms. There was no time for finesse. Jake grabbed a rock from the ground and smashed the driver's side window. Glass showered everywhere, but he didn't care. He reached in, unlocked the door from the inside, and with strength born of desperation and years of physical labor, he wrenched it open with a metallic groan. The woman was breathing but completely unresponsive. He would have to come back for her. The children were his priority, they were conscious and terrified, and the smoke was thickest in the back where they sat. Jake climbed into the front seat, ignoring the shattered glass cutting into his knees, and reached back to the first little girl. Her car seat buckle was stuck, jammed from the impact. His fingers fumbled with it as precious seconds ticked away, the heat becoming unbearable. Finally, the buckle released, and he pulled the first twin free, a little girl with blonde curls and wearing a pink dress. "I've got you, sweetheart," he said, his voice steady despite the chaos. "You're going to be okay." He passed her out through the broken window to safety, setting her on the grass several feet from the burning vehicle. "Stay right there. Don't move. I'm getting your sister." He turned back to the second twin, who was screaming now, her small face contorted with fear. "Daddy! I want my daddy!" she cried, but Jake noted there was no one else in the vehicle. Just the woman and the two girls. This buckle was even worse than the first, warped from the crash. Jake could feel the heat intensifying behind him, could hear the ominous whoosh of flames spreading. His hands worked frantically, and finally, mercifully, the buckle gave way. He pulled the second little girl free just as the flames reached the front seats. There was no time to be gentle. He grabbed her, protecting her head with his hand, and dove out through the driver's side door, rolling away from the vehicle with the child clutched to his chest. They hit the ground hard, and Jake immediately covered the little girl's body with his own as the gas tank exploded behind them. The concussive force of the blast was tremendous, sending debris flying in all directions. Jake felt something strike his shoulder, felt the searing heat wash over his back, but he didn't move until the initial explosion had passed. When he finally looked up, the SUV was completely engulfed in flames, a towering inferno against the darkening sky. The woman. God, the woman was still inside. Without thinking, Jake ran back toward the burning wreckage. The heat was so intense it was hard to breathe, and every instinct screamed at him to stay back, but he couldn't leave her. He couldn't save the children, only to let their mother burn. The driver's side was now completely consumed by fire, so Jake ran around to the passenger side. The door there had popped open from the crash, and through the flames and smoke, he could see the woman's form. He didn't think about the danger, didn't calculate the odds. He simply acted. Jake lunged into the inferno, grabbed the woman under her arms, and pulled with everything he had. Her seatbelt held for a moment, and Jake thought he might have to leave her, but then it gave way, and he fell backward, dragging her clear of the vehicle. He pulled her away from the burning SUV, his lungs screaming for clean air, his exposed skin feeling like it was on fire. He got her about 20 feet away before his legs finally gave out, and he collapsed next to her, gasping. The two little girls ran to them, crying, throwing their small bodies onto the unconscious woman. "Mommy! Mommy, wake up!" they sobbed in unison. Jake checked her pulse. It was there, steady and strong. She was breathing. They had made it. They were alive. In the distance, Jake could hear sirens approaching. Someone must have called 911 after seeing the smoke. He sat there on the grass, his entire body shaking from adrenaline, watching the SUV burn, hardly believing what had just happened. The two little girls clung to their mother, and then one of them, the one in the pink dress, crawled over to Jake and wrapped her tiny arms around his neck. "You saved us," she whispered. "You're a hero." Jake didn't feel like a hero. He felt exhausted and shaken, his hands trembling as the adrenaline began to wear off. But he put his arms around the little girl and held her gently. "It's okay now," he said softly. "You're safe. You're both safe." The emergency vehicles arrived moments later, fire trucks and ambulances flooding the scene with lights and activity. Paramedics rushed to attend to the woman and the children. Jake was also checked over, treated for minor burns and cuts, but he refused to go to the hospital. He gave his statement to the police, explaining what had happened, and then, as the chaos continued around him, he quietly slipped away to his truck and drove home. He didn't want attention or praise. He had simply done what anyone would have done in that situation. At least, that's what he told himself. That night, Jake couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw those two little faces pressed against the window, heard their screams. He kept thinking about how close it had been, how if he had been just a minute later, or if those buckles had taken any longer to release, those children would have died. The weight of it pressed down on him, and he found himself sitting on his porch in the darkness, a cold beer in his hand, staring out at his quiet farm. The next morning, Jake woke early as usual, intending to get back to work. He had repairs to finish, animals to feed, and a normal life to return to. But as he stepped outside with his coffee, he heard something that made him freeze. The distinctive thump-thump-thump of helicopter rotors cutting through the morning air. He looked up, confused, as not one but 3 large helicopters appeared over the tree line, heading straight for his property. Jake's military background allowed him to identify them immediately. They were civilian executive helicopters, expensive ones. What in the world? The helicopters circled his farm once, then descended, landing in his largest pasture, scattering his cattle and sending up clouds of dust and grass. Jake stood there, coffee forgotten in his hand, completely bewildered as the rotors began to slow. The doors of the helicopters opened, and people began emerging. Men in dark suits, security personnel, and then a woman. She was in her 60s, elegant and poised, wearing an expensive designer outfit that looked completely out of place on his rural farm. She was helped down from the helicopter by 2 security guards, and then she turned and looked directly at Jake. There was something in her eyes, an intensity and emotion that made Jake's chest tighten. Behind her, more people were emerging, including medical personnel carefully helping someone on a stretcher. As they got closer, Jake recognized her. It was the woman from the crash, awake now, bandaged but alive, and holding the hands of the two little girls who walked beside her. The elegant older woman walked straight toward Jake, and as she got closer, he could see tears streaming down her face. She stopped a few feet from him, looking at him as if seeing something precious and miraculous. "Mr. Morrison," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I'm Catherine Whitmore. That woman you saved yesterday is my daughter, Victoria. And those two precious angels are my granddaughters, Emily and Emma." Jake blinked, the name Whitmore triggering recognition. Catherine Whitmore. The Catherine Whitmore. One of the wealthiest women in the country, CEO of Whitmore Industries, a tech conglomerate worth billions. He had seen her face on magazine covers and news programs. And he had saved her daughter and grandchildren without even knowing who they were. "Ma'am, Jake started, but Catherine held up her hand. "Please let me speak," she said, her voice breaking slightly. "My daughter was driving back from a weekend retreat when a tire blew out. She lost control, and the car went off the road. The impact knocked her unconscious. If you hadn't stopped, if you hadn't risked your life to pull them from that burning vehicle, I would have lost everything that matters to me in this world." Victoria, now standing beside her mother with her arms around her daughters, spoke up. Her voice was hoarse, probably from smoke inhalation, but filled with gratitude. "You ran into a burning car for us. You saved my babies. You saved me. How does someone ever say thank you for something like that?" Jake felt uncomfortable with all the attention, with the raw emotion directed at him. Anyone would have done the same thing, he said, which was what he genuinely believed. Catherine shook her head firmly. "No, Mr. Morrison. Not anyone. 3 cars drove past that accident before you stopped. We know because the police found dash-cam footage from vehicles on that road. 3 cars saw my daughter's vehicle burning and kept driving. But you stopped. You risked everything." Jake didn't know what to say to that. The idea that people had driven past a burning car with children inside made him feel sick. What kind of world was this where people could do that? Catherine stepped closer, and now her professional composure was breaking down completely. Tears flowed freely down her cheeks. "Mr. Morrison, Jake. May I call you Jake?" He nodded, still processing everything. "Jake, I've spent my entire life building a business empire. I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. I have power and influence. But none of it, not one single dollar, not 1 ounce of influence, means anything compared to my family. You gave me back my family. You gave those little girls their mother. You gave me my daughter and my granddaughters. There is no amount of money in the world that could repay that debt." Emily and Emma, the twin girls, broke free from their mother and ran to Jake. They wrapped their arms around his legs, looking up at him with wide, grateful eyes. "Thank you for saving us, Mr. Jake," they said in unison, their voices sweet and sincere. Jake crouched down to their level, feeling his own eyes getting wet. "You two are very brave girls," he said gently. "I'm so glad you're okay." Catherine composed herself, wiping her eyes, and when she spoke again, her voice had taken on a more businesslike tone, though the emotion was still evident. "Jake, I've learned about your situation. This farm, your business, the financial struggles you've been facing. The bank loan that's coming due.